Scalp and hair fiber, the hidden keys to strong and healthy hair. With that and more, ladies and gentlemen, here at the Hair Wire. Where's my intro? Oh, here it is. Welcome, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Hair Wire. I'm your host, Sergio Cardona, coming to you live, ladies and gentlemen, alongside with my beautiful co-host, Carrie. Jerry, how you doing, Carrie?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm lost for words right now.
You're what?
I'm lost for words.
Oh.
I guys, this is a live show, so every time I'm trying to look for the button, for our video, for our intro video, for some reason it always kind of lost. I lose myself in it. But hey, we're here, we're back. Thank you guys for tuning in week after week and making this show your source of continuous education. This is the place, guys, where people get hair smart. We're the hair smart people. This is what we do here on the Hair Wire, and today we have an amazing show. Today we're going to be talking about a lot of the good things. So
Yeah, this one's good, especially following up our last one. If you didn't catch last week, we went and talked about every single hair loss category that there is, because there's more than one type of alopecia. And this one, Sergio and I were like, what do we talk about? I'm like, you know what? We need to follow it up with something we don't talk enough about. So
definitely. Today we're going to be talking about amazing stuff here. And today we're going to go a little bit deep into the things that makes our hair function properly and how it works, because unfortunately we see a lot of people online, and yes, they want to promote the product, they want to promote the service, but unfortunately, do you really know if it's going to work for you? So in order to understand that, we need to understand the basics. So for instance, we need to talk about the scalp as the soil, why it matters more than we think, So we want to talk about the scalp microbiome, the pH balance. Now, why is it so important to, Carrie, to care about our microbiome and the pH balance on our scalp?
well, of course, because the scalp, I talk to clients when I talk to them about the scalp, and especially when you get the hair loss in control. Now it's a matter of keeping the hair and nurturing the hair that you have. And you want to make sure that your scalp is a beautiful spot for hair to nurture and to grow. And so you treat it like soil. If you have poor soil, you're not going to get a good garden. And so that's why we want to make sure we nurture it. And if you have poor pH, it's going to affect the acidity of the hair. It's going to affect the bacteria, is going to affect how it's going to grow. It's going to affect if it's going to grow thick or cause breakage. And just to really have a good balance of the pH and the microbiome, so that way you have strong hair, and you got to nurture what's coming in too to prevent, breakage and hair loss. And if your pH is out of balance, it could cause hair shedding quicker. It could cause the hair to have more bacteria in it, which could lead to other things. Dryness, itchiness, all of that. So we want to make sure we really have a really good foundation on our scalp for the hair to grow.
Definitely. Because again, if, for instance, our microbiome gets out of whack, what it's called a dysbiosis, then unfortunately our hair is not going to be able to grow properly. So definitely we want to look into that, and we want to make sure that it's properly balanced, because unfortunately a lot of people do not understand that, for instance, our scalp, we have a group of bacteria, even funguses, and even parasites that are part of our skin, are part of our
hair's
scalp.
ecosystem.
It's a complete ecosystem. It's a complete ecosystem that we need to nurture, because they take care of our hair back. So if I take care of them, they take care of me, and it's all balanced. But the moment that balance is is uneven, it's out of balance, that's when things start to happen, and particularly our pH level becomes compromised. And instead of having a acidic type of pH on our scalp, it starts to become alkaline. And although we understand that a lot of people nowadays are talking about the importance of, for instance, drinking alkaline water. For our inside is okay to be alkaline, but on our outside it needs to be acidic, because the need of our skin is different. So we need to make sure that we're balancing correctly. And so by adding the proper acids to our scalp and the proper moisture, we are able to repair and balance that pH level that is so crucial, important for our mantle. Now, what it is, these acidic mantle? Well, the acidic mantle is a mixture between the natural oils that our scalp produces and, of course, our sweat. Now, that creates a barrier that protects our scalp and protects it from damaging bacteria and damaging funguses and bacteria and parasites. Like, for instance, if we have an overgrowth of Demodex. Have you seen that, Carrie? Have you seen an overgrowth of Demodex on someone's scalp?
Yes, I have a couple
It's quite gross, by the way.
yeah, you have to hold your tummy.
Well, basically, the Demodex follicularum, which is the proper name, is a type of mite. It's a type of bed bug, and this type of bug eats from our sebum. They crawl into the scalp, and they eat our sebum. And when they build their eggs, when they multiply, they do it inside the follicle. And when they die, it's like they burst and create this bunch of bacteria that is basically the same type of bacteria that causes acne. So it drives our follicles to produce more sebum, and the quality of the sebum becomes disrupted. So because of that, it changes the environment of the follicle and could lead to a lot of unhealthy issues, like, for instance, dandruff, excessive oiliness, even seborrheic dermatitis, pityriasis, and many other things, and even drive and create hair loss conditions because of the unbalance on our scalp. Anything you want to add to that, Carrie?
Yeah, well, of course, everything you talked about, potentially overproduction of oil will clog pores, causing hair loss, dry scalp. If it's too acidic or too alkaline, both will cause a dry scalp, make it really dry, leading to dandruff and itching, which causes scarring. And we don't consider those factors. We there's a lot to consider with like the alkaline and the acidity of the hair. Yeah. And even like with bacterial and fungal growth, you need to have that balanced pH to prevent all that bacteria growth, which, it's a fine, you got to make sure you have good hydration, good balance, good products. And a lot of people forget that.
And you have to start with, for instance, the shampoo, the way we shampoo our scalp. Because unfortunately, a lot of people, when they take a shampoo, they just think that going like this and that's it. No, to properly wash our hair and to take care of our scalp, takes a little bit more finesse.
Yeah.
Of course, we guys, we lack that finesse a lot of times. I mean, we can grab a bar of soap and that's it, and we can just wash our hair with that. But no, it's not like that. It's not like that at all. All right. Whenever you're washing your hair, you have to massage your scalp while you're at it. So one of the things I would recommend, for instance, is that, start considering about the movement. So think about a circular movement. And whenever you're doing that circular movement, I will start, for instance, from the center. I will go to the sides, and I will do this motion 4 times, right? And then I will go deeper, and I go from the middle to the sides, and then same to the back. Or if I go from the frontal section to the back, I will do that same movement at least 4 times, right? I will do that same movement 4 times. I will be massaging my scalp at the same time as I'm, washing my scalp properly. Now, when you're washing your hair, basically you can take some of that foam and pass it down. And if it's really dirty, then you might want to rub it a little bit, but not too much, because you can break your hair. So be mindful of that. You don't want to overdo it. All right. So, Carrie, you've been working on a salon, so you can properly the right technique. What's the
Yeah.
right technique here?
Well, it's not also technique. It's about using the right product. A lot of people don't consider too that different shampoos have different acidic levels, and so what happens is the acidity of the shampoo. From your typical pH level of the hair, it will change the acidity level, and it breaks the bond of the hair. So, special, and it's really good. Like when you dry your hair and you curl with a curling iron, you flat iron it, you're creating an you're changing the bond of the hair.
Yeah.
The shampoo has a pH enough just slightly to break that bond when you shampoo it and wet it, so it goes back to its natural structure. But different shampoos have a higher acidic level, and a lot of times you need to have a conditioner to bounce that pH back, and that's why it's
Yes.
important to have a good conditioner to bounce the pH of the scalp and the hair, because if you're using a shampoo that's higher acidity than the natural pH level of the hair, it's going to cause the hair to be dry, broken, and brittle, and very it could cause breakage, static. It feels not the greatest. So you want to make sure that you're also using a conditioner to bounce the pH. And there are a lot of shampoos that are a lot more gentle, like baby shampoos have a low acidity level. They're actually close to the natural human or the natural pH of our hair. But if some shampoos could be more stronger, like clarifying shampoos or acidic bond breaking shampoos, but you do need to put that conditioner to rebounce that pH back to the 4.5 or the 5.5 that it should be at. And the conditioner is typically in a higher alkaline, and you need that alkaline to bounce out that acidity to get there. So a lot of times, especially men, I see they don't like, I don't need conditioner. That's fluffy. I don't need that. But you do to keep the balance of the pH of the hair and the scalp. And so if you're not balancing the pH of the scalp, you're causing dry scalp, which could lead to hair loss. It could cause breakage. It could cause hair thinning. And not just main thing like shedding, I mean like the actual density of the actual follicle itself, because you want to make sure that you're keeping the cuticle quite nourished, so that way it's less preventative to break and deplete in density over time on the actual hair shaft itself. So yeah, and when it comes to shampooing properly, it's making sure that you're shampooing the scalp. A lot of times people shampoo, especially with long hair, they'll shampoo root to end. And the main point of the shampoo is to clean the scalp. And so when you're going in there, just like Sergio talked about, is going in and massaging the scalp, try not to use your nails because you don't want to break skin, but
Yes.
using the pads of your fingers to get in there and really clean that scalp, and then use the suds from the soap to run through the rest of the hair. You don't really need to shampoo the rest of the hair. The only time I put shampoo on root to end is if, say, I went and had an updo and I had my hair covered in hair product and hairspray, just
Exactly.
wash that out. That's pretty much the only time that I will. But I will also make sure I have a really good balanced routine after that too, with conditioner root to end, which I typically do not do. And then with conditioner, what you're going to do is you want to put the conditioner on the hair, mainly focus on the mid shaft to ends, and then lightly on the root scalp, not too much. The main focus is on the ends, so maybe put the ends on a little bit longer and then work it up to the top to bounce that pH. But that's the whole point of that conditioner, is to bounce that pH and to nourish the hair. So and that'll make a huge difference on nurturing the hair as it grows. And a lot of times we get the hair growing back in, we don't nurture their hair. We don't know how to get it growing, and you got to maintain that garden and that harvest of hair, right? So
That's the whole thing, and by massaging, for instance, you're going to be increasing circulation.
mhm.
You're going to be able to remove buildup. And if we're doing those things, we could also have an impact on possible deflect any inflammation on our scalp. Because the problem with many hair loss conditions is that we have a lot of inflammation. So we want to be able to manage that by having a healthy scalp. And to avoid inflammation, we need to have a clean scalp. And to avoid inflammation, we need to have a properly hydrated scalp. So a scalp that is hydrated is balanced, has the pH properly balanced. If we are doing those things, we're going to be able to keep a healthy scalp. And what are some of the things, Kerry, that people can do at home to maybe assess their scalp condition? What are some of the things that you would recommend for people to watch over? And because they do not have maybe the instruments, but what are some of the key things that you could recommend?
Yeah. Well, one common one I commonly see is people think that if their hair is producing too much sebum or too much oil, they're like, well, if I add conditioner, it's going to get greasier. Well, to the contrary, your body is overproducing sebum to compensate for the lack of hydration that it's experiencing.
Yes.
And so, you would think not to moisturize the scalp, but you want to moisturize that scalp to balance the hydration and the pH of the hair because the body's overcompensating because it's lacking. And so when I tell people when they come in with oily scalp, I'm like, drink more water and condition your scalp. And they look at me like crazy. I'm like, trust me, it will work. And if you find that after a week it's still not changing, and usually it corrects itself within 2 washes or so. And if you're finding it's still oily, then it could be something else, such as stress. And that's when you got to self-examine what's going on in your life, because stress does cause oily scalp as well. And so you want to make sure you're really analyzing what you're doing. As for the signs that you can look for is, investigate changes in lifestyle. Has it been stressful lately? Have you been drinking enough water? Look at your urine. If your urine is too yellow, you're
Yeah.
probably very dehydrated. Maybe your skin's a lot drier than usual, and if your skin's really tight, well, chances are if your face skin's tight, your scalp skin's tight. So you want to make sure you're moisturizing it too. Um, Sometimes with the oil, I find if it's too oily and it will have, and if it has a hue, I know it's not a pH thing, it's more of a hormone issue or stress issue. And if it has that kind of hue, then that would be just something changing. Like I know with myself, once I'm coming up to ovulation, or my period every month, I do get a little oilier, but I'm my system's changing for that month, right? So analyze what's going on. But typically, it is because you're dehydrated or because your body's overcompensating. What do you have to say about that?
No, definitely, definitely, because unfortunately, some of the things that we see on our scalp um, are just signs of things that are happening on the inside. So
Yes.
we need to take a closer look. So whenever I spot on something that strike me as unusual, first of all, I will ask my wife, "Hey, take a look at my hair. What's going on?" Or if you have kids, or maybe your hairstylist. You know, go to the first line of aid, which is usually your hairstylist. So have them take a closer look at your scalp. Have them have a closer look at your hair, and to describe you what are some of the things that they are seeing. Because unfortunately, we don't have eyes in the back of our heads, and sometimes you look in front of a mirror, and it is very very hard to tell what's happening. So the same is true whenever I'm spotting areas in my scalp where I feel that, maybe I have less hair. Maybe I'm shedding more in one section of my scalp rather than the other. And, having an extra pair of eyes looking at your scalp, it really helps. Because again, the key, as many say, the devil's in the details. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to those little details, the things that are happening, because they usually when we start looking at little details and we start adding them together, we can actually conclude that something is changing, something is happening. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just a sporadic thing. Maybe it's just a seasonal change. Maybe it's just a food allergy. Maybe it's stress. Maybe it's just something that is driving my hormonal system out of whack. It could be those things, but can also be leading to something larger. So in order to understand what's happening, I need to pay close attention to the little details and start making notes about those details. How my scalp is behaving, how my hair shedding is behaving, how am I my dandruff is behaving. So by taking notes of those behaviors, those changes in behavior, I'm going to be able to tell whether something is happening. All right. So
Yeah.
maybe right away I'm not going to be able to understand, but I can get that information to the people who actually understand those changes and can help me identify what's going on. So the first thing is, again, I want to make sure that I'm looking closer to my scalp, and I'm going to be able to get a better visual of what's happening. And if I can take pictures of it, even better. So one of the things I always tell people is, take pictures of your scalp, take pictures of your hair. Particularly if you're losing hair, you want to take pictures of the amounts of hair that you're losing. Because unfortunately, our eyes, they deceive ourselves constantly. And for instance, a lot of people, they will say, I'm losing tons of hair. Oh, well, Perfect. Let's start taking pictures every time you wash your hair and collect those pictures so that you will have a good round number of about, a good impression on how many hairs are you losing on a daily basis or every time you wash your hair.
Yeah.
And if that, that bunch of hair, it's growing, then definitely you see that, the changes in terms of hair loss are increasing. But if the amount of hair that I'm losing, is the amount of hair that I'm shedding is less and less and less. Do I need to worry about that? Well, no, because you're shedding less of it, which is a good thing. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they're not able to tell whether what they're shedding is normal or not because they have been shedding for so long that they cannot tell the difference, and they have become so worried and so concerned about their shedding that even when they lose 3 5 hairs, they're they become so freaked out about it when they really shouldn't. And that's the key, paying attention to those little details, and that will help you guide, and help you move the efforts properly into what's really happening. Okay, so another thing that we want to talk about today is about hair fiber strength, elasticity, and damage prevention, because again, we're talking about the scalp as the main focus, as the main actor, the soil that will, of course, produce our beautiful hair. So we need to take care, of course, of our hair. What are some of the things that are happening to our hair? What's our hair really made of? All right. So, Carrie, what's our hair made of? Let's start there. Let's start with the basics here.
Well, hair, it's a keratin structure and it's also porosity, believe it or not. So, hydration plays a big factor of hair. So, like if your hair if you're dry, your hair is going to grow just like a plant, a tree branch. If it's a dehydrated tree, the branches aren't going to be supple. They'll break easily. So that's why you want to make sure you have proper hydration as well, because if it doesn't have enough hydration, what's going to happen to the branch? It's going to snap very easily. If it's hydrated enough, it's going to be so flexible you have a hard time breaking it. And same with you are what you eat. We always say that you are what you eat, and diet is so critical. And a lot of times you see all these fad diets people do all the time, and they don't know how to do them properly. And what they do is they eliminate things. And you have to remember, it's also food too. It has a system. You need to have a catalyst for one for the other to create the structure of the hair as well. And so if you're eliminating something completely, like carbs, people don't eat and don't realize they still need their healthy carbs, and they'll eliminate carbs completely in a diet. Or if they're going vegan, they're not getting enough protein. But you have to remember, keratin needs that. You are what you eat. So you got to make sure you're supplementing somewhere, or making sure you're doing out your research on what foods are going to create the ingredients to have proper hair growth, because hair is predominantly it's a keratin structure. So you need to make sure you're having your proper fatty acids, amino acids, and that's why we talk about that all the time. And you can't have one without the other. And you do need the mineral. You need to have salts. I see a lot of people eliminate salts and then they wonder why their hair is going gross. I'm like, well, you need the mineral in the body too to be able to absorb things. It's a catalyst for a lot of the other nutrients in the body for it to create the foundation of a lot of things such as hair growth. So it's critical to have proper foundation in porosity and keratin. So
I love it. And one of the things that you mentioned, for instance, the salts. When we have our salts properly balanced, our body's able to hydrate. Because unfortunately, we have mentioned this many times before. It's not about just drinking plenty of water, which is essential, but rather that you want that water to be properly absorbed by your cells. So in order to be cellularly hydrated, you need those salts, because those are the key. Those are basically the gatekeepers between the cells, and they allow things to either enter or exit our cells. So the only way we're going to be doing that is if we keep those salts in our body, those minerals.
yes, and it's a balance.
Essential.
It's not saying go eat all your potato chips and table salt. It's making
Of
sure
course,
you
that's
have
not it.
a good balance of all your nutrients and your salt, like, a little bit of seasoning. That's, it's not going to be like, oh, Carrie and Sergio said to go eat my potato chips. No. No, it's good quality mineral. Yeah. Now, Sergio, I really want to talk on the different types. Like, I really want to talk about this, like how to analyze the hair, especially because we're so close to the topic of just talking about pH and shampoo and stuff. when we feel the hair, we look at different things with the fiber of the hair. First is how dry or brittle it is. Now,
Mhm.
if you're dehydrated from the inside and you're not balancing the pH of the hair, so the pH of the hair of what you drink affects how the hair is going to grow, but also how you moisturize the hair itself after it's grown. And so remember I talked about the pH of the shampoo and then having a conditioner, but to bounce the pH to more of a natural 4.5 or 5.5. Well, if you're doing a harsh shampoo and always using a very acidic shampoo without putting alkaline to bounce it out, you're also going to too cause the hair to be dry and brittle. And what happens is the cuticle layer may be to blame. And what happens is that cuticle layer becomes damaged. And if you look at a hair strand itself under a microscope, it looks like a whole bunch of scales, just like a fish scales. And what happens is if it's not moisturized and nourished, it causes the damage of the cuticle to almost stand up and get frizzy. And what happens is it doesn't have the strength anymore to hold the moisture underneath that cuticle once it's moisturized. So it escapes essentially, leading it to be more brittle and straw-like. And so that's why it's critical that you're focusing on moisture externally and internally. And a lot of people don't consider that factor. And once that happens, and if it becomes brittle because of both factors, it's just going to break quicker and faster. And so I see a lot of men, this is a common one I have been seeing lately, is a lot of men coming in with genetic alopecia, and it's very thin hair, and they're wondering why it's so thin. And I'm like, well, do you use conditioner? Do you use the proper shampoos? They're like, no, I just use my bar soap. And I'm like, well, you wonder your hair is so thin. The actual structure of the hair itself is because the cuticle is so dry and damaged that the hair shaft itself is becoming brittle and
Yeah.
breaking, and that's why it's like that. So that's why it's so critical that you're using a proper balance of shampoos and conditioners. So
You,
common
you
one.
see, you see, for instance, a lot of guys. I'm sorry, a lot of guys with under genetic alopecia, their hair, it looks so wiry, so dry, and they just use whatever to wash their hair, and they don't even consider about the use of conditioners because they feel that it becomes greasy, and you need moisture to properly manage your hair so that the hair will look beautiful. And it's not going to look sexy, guys.
No. And
Bride riddle hair does not look sexy on any guy. So you definitely want to make look that hair more attractive. So definitely we want to increase that moisture into the hair. All right,
yeah,
it's
and
very important, very important.
like the hair itself, when you look at it closely, the hair will look thick at the root, but on the ends it gets thinner and thinner. And it's just like I mentioned before, the damaged hair that it causes as a result of like the inconsistent cuticle layer. And that's typically what happens from the middle to the end of the hair, is that as it grows, because it's becoming has more it's been exposed more to damage and environmental factors and not being conditioned. So that's why it's like that. But you know what, if you take care of your hair and it's soft and touchable, trust me, your partner's going to want to play with your hair and massage it, which is going to be beneficial and help with circulation too. So, just saying. I don't, when my husband's hair is nice and moisturized, I'm constantly playing with his hair. But when it feels kind of straw, I'm like, no. But
That's the
that's
thing,
me.
guys. You want the ladies to touch your hair, you're gonna make it, more appetizable. you know,
Another thing Another thing too, having the cuticle damage, it also causes the hair to be more tangled than usual. I know myself, if I don't use a conditioner and my cuticle ends are standing up, it's so tangly, it's hard to get a brush through. So it also helps make the cuticle lay flatter, so it's easier to brush, less tangled. It's just gonna be much better root to end. So yeah.
definitely, we want to make those changes, guys, and bring in, the things that actually are gonna help our hair look better. Because again, a hair that looks healthy, it kind of usually is. So it's usually a good sign, for your hair. So definitely something that you want to consider. So, I mean, definitely something that you want to do. So consider those little things, that we can add. For instance, a lot of people don't even consider about the use of leave-in conditioners. Living
No.
conditioners are amazing. And even the use of a hair mask, put your hair mask, then you add your conditioner to your hair. It's going to make a lot of, it's going to make your hair beautiful. Now, if you have oily, greasy scalp, what are some of the things that you want to do? Well, you want to consider, for instance, the strength of the product that you're using. For instance, if you're using a hydrating product, how strong is that hydrating product? So if it's a regular product for normal to thick hair, obviously you're going to feel that product to be too greasy on your hair. But if it's a moisturizing product for thin, fine hair, definitely is something that, it will increase moisture to your hair accordingly to the type of hair that you have. And it will increase, of course, the moisture to your scalp, which is what you want to do to rebalance it. So considering the strength of the product is essential. The other thing to consider is, for instance, the time of exposure. For instance, if you apply a conditioner, you can leave it for maybe a minute to up to 15 minutes if you need more moisture into your scalp. All right. So you want to hydrate you want to moisturize your hair properly, then you want to leave it for more time. But again, if you have thin to greasy hair, then you might want to do it for just about a minute or two, and you want to remove it quickly. So that way your hair gets some of it. And of course, properly, or at least most of the time, people who have thin, fine hair who is greasy, usually they wash it more frequently. So it's okay to maybe just use it for a couple of minutes. But if you are someone who washes your hair like once or twice a week, then definitely you want to expose your hair to more time to the conditioner as well as to the mask product that you're going to be using. So that way you're going to get more moisture and you're going to get more balancing of that pH level on your scalp. All right. And finally, you just want to use a leave-in conditioner, the same thing. So there are leave-in conditioners which are very heavy, very creamy, and some of them are very oily, while others are very thin, like watery type of leave-in conditioners. So usually those type of leave-in conditioners are more for people who has finer hair, and it's going to moisture, but it has more water in it, so that it will travel easily and it will not look as oily. All right. But the thing is that you need to protect your hair. You need to add moisture to it. And that's key. The other thing is, with your styling products, that you're going to be using. For instance, if you like a mousse, you like the hair gel, you like a sprayer, then you need to consider that those products usually have a higher content of alcohol, which can dry your hair. So if you're using a product that can dry your hair, then you want to up your ante on your moisturizers so you can rebalance the product. All right. And if you're using, for instance, a clay or a wax type of product, then depending on the type of product, then you want to use either a little amount of it or maybe some extra of it, so you can style your hair properly and it will look, will achieve the desired look on your hair.
Yeah. I also want to stress, I see somebody here talking and asking about rosemary. Rosemary is really good because it does help with free radicals of the hair, but depending how you use it. I find a lot of times with oil, when people don't understand the difference of oils. So when you're getting oil, there's hair oil specifically or serum specifically for hair itself. Then there are ones specifically for scalp. And so you want to make sure you're using two different oils. So I do have scalp oil treatments I use on my own scalp. Typically, I stick to essential oils and carrier oils for my scalp, but that's more depending on what I'm needing it for. So like if I have had a sunburn, if I need to moisturize the scalp, and I know different skin types need different treatments as well. And different hair types have different needs. So say someone with ultra fine hair is not going to use the same as scalp oil or hair oil as somebody, say, with kinky or coarse hair. They have different needs, and the way they hold the moisture is going to be very different from somebody with coarse, thick, kinky hair to somebody with thin, fine hair. So you want to make sure you talk to the experts on that, on which one is best for you. I also find with a lot of treatments, especially oil treatments, there's a lot of them now with keratin builders or protein builders. Now, if you're using a protein builder or protein treatment in your serum and you do not need it, you could cause breakage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you got to be very careful on how you're using it. So if you know your hair is healthy, you don't have a lot of breakage, then you want to stick to a moisture rich. But if you have a keratin one with broken structure, then that's when you use it. But also know the difference whether your hair is dry and damaged or if it's chemically damaged. I find a lot of times people will mix up the two and it'd be like, oh, I have so much broken hair. I'm like, your hair is just dry. It just needs a good mask. And then it corrects itself and goes back to the way it was. But then there are the ones that are chemically damaged or they're essentially overcooked which can happen, not just from chemicals, but from overuse of flat irons and tools and so forth. That will need more of a keratin treatment or a stronger treatment. But I would talk to your stylist first, because you don't want to cause more damage to the hair. I did have one client where she was using egg proteins and building it up, and she couldn't understand why her hair was so broken and damaged. And it was
There's too
because she
much
was,
of it. Yeah.
yeah, using too much. So you want to be very careful with that. And as well too is, when brushing hair too, you want to make sure you're brushing your hair for you. I find, as with all my clients, every single one of the clients, I teach them how to brush their hair for their hair. For example, bleach blonde hair, I will not brush it wet. I make sure it's dry before I brush it, because the hair is more elastic when it's wet, and the bonding in a blonde, you break that bond, so it's going to be more fragile. But say for somebody who has a thicker, coarser hair or wavy hair, we can handle our hair being combed wet with conditioners more than somebody with straight, because our bond structure is tighter and a lot tighter, and it could hold. It has more strength to be combed wet in the shower with the conditioners properly. But say someone like my sister who has bone straight hair, I tend to make sure she brushes her hair, like finger comb it or brush it before she goes in the shower, and then lightly after, but she doesn't have dyed hair and her hair is straight. So there's different needs for the different ways that you brush your hair. My hair being wavy, you brush my hair after I get out of the shower, my hair's gonna be big. So that's another reason. So there's a lot of things, and I have all these hairdressers be like, well, I shouldn't brush your hair this way, I shouldn't brush your hair that way. Well, depending on what type of hair type you have and what results you're going for, you're gonna have a different need. Now, and also too, next time you're in the shower, I want you guys to take a hair strand, and I want you to be really aware of your hair's elasticity. Try to take one strand and try and stretch it while it's dry. Then go in the shower and shampoo and come out and see how much your hair stretches. And that's what I mean with the elasticity, is when your hair is wet, it stretches more, has more elasticity than when it's dry. And so that's another reason I always tell people, just cautious of how you're brushing hair depending on the structure of your hair itself. And why I'm always saying don't put your hair back wet, because if you're putting it back wet, it's more stretchy, and then by the time it dries, it's going to snap, and you're going to have all that breakage. So there's a lot of tricks. Now, if you want to learn more and talk more on this topic, we could do a whole point. Like, we're looking at doing a conference here pretty soon. Maybe we do a segment on that, on the different hair types. But if you do want that, put in the comments and we know what you want. But here, you guys, I'm going to give you a fun one, which I do with a lot of my clients for learning how, if their hair is dry. So this is a fun test for you guys to do at home. Get a glass of water, and what you're going to do is going to take a couple strands of hair, and you're going to drop it in the water. And what you're going to do is, if it has low porosity, the hair strand itself floats to the top. If your hair has low porosity, meaning it's difficult for moisture to penetrate, that means it has low porosity of hair. That's when you might want to get a mask and work on treatment to condition your hair. Now, if it's a medium porosity, where it's like maybe use more of a spraying conditioner or focus on your hair serums, this is when you would use it for medium porosity. And this is when the strand floats to the middle and the hair has medium porosity, meaning it absorbs and retains moisture well, but could be better. Now, if it has high porosity, that means the strand will sink quickly to the bottom, and the hair has high porosity, meaning it absorbs moisture easily, but can also dry out quickly. So you want to make sure it's in the middle. Like, you want to have a real good balance between medium and high porosity. So I hope that helped you out with understanding moisture, but it's just a quick little home trick. So
And those are the best, because sometimes, we worry too much about what's good, what's bad, so we need quicker, easier ways, to find out, whether we need to add more moisture or less of it, and how to properly manage our hair. And I know a lot of you, after COVID, you became hair experts at home because you were not going to the hairstylist. So I know a lot of you have gone into that route, and that's okay. The thing is that, to at least get a better sense of what's actually happening to your hair, and to learn more about it, and to actually do the things that will provide nutrients for your hair and will provide, the best care for it. And that's what what we're trying to do here at the Hair Wire, to get your hair smart, And by the way, Carrie, you mentioned something very special, and you forgot that you mentioned it. And that is, we're going to be having a seminar.
yes.
We're going to be having a seminar, guys, for you, and it's going to be on June 2nd. It's going to be 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time through to 3:30. It's going to be 4 hours. It's going to be a 4-hour seminar. It's going to be for professionals and general public. So anyone is invited. Of course, we're going to be talking about some of the things about the industry, but mainly it's going to be just good old fashioned common sense things that you can do for your hair. So definitely is something that you want to be part of if you're a general public. And of course, for our professionals, you're going to get a good one. You're going to get a whole lot of good information. So stay tuned. We're going to be advertising this very heavily as soon. But you guys hear it first today at the Hair Wire. We're going to be having our good seminar, the Hair Wire seminar, the hair loss seminar, the foundations of hair loss. We're talking about a lot about telogen effluvium. That's going to be our main subject. We're going to be talking about telogen effluvium that day. And my gosh, we're going to be covering from end to end everything about telogen effluvium and then some. And we got some special things in there as well. So stay tuned, guys. It's going to be an amazing show. Save the date, June 2nd, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You do not want to miss it. And we're going to be selling tickets very soon. So stay tuned, guys. Early bird gets a special. So stay tuned, guys. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a great event, and you want to be part of it. All right?
And I want to mention too, bonus for a lot of, because I've had a lot of the trichologist professionals message and ask about business and marketing. Those I do know I do have a marketing degree, and I do all the web design and marketing for a lot of our stuff. Mind you, it's been on standstill because I've been working on rebuilding our website right now, but I will be doing essentially a social media marketing tricks and hacks for trichologists, but any of you could benefit from it because I'm sharing, because I do work with a lot of thought leaders on how to do marketing and how to talk to their niche, and my hacks, how I do it so fast and quick. So if you do want to be part of that, that's a bonus. So
that's a big bonus right there.
All right, let's go on further. This one, I love this one. It's funny. I started professionally blogging in 2012, and it all started with a blog about the difference between dandruff and dry scalp. Common scalp and hair issues and how to fix them. Now, commonly I get people saying I have dandruff, and I'll look at it and be like, you have a dry scalp. You don't want to treat a dry scalp like dandruff because you could cause dandruff. And dandruff is a permanent thing. It doesn't go away. Like it can go away, but it comes back. You're susceptible to it. So you want to make sure that you're treating a dry scalp and not creating a dandruff. And to know the difference is if it's dandruff, it's going to have thicker patches. And there's different types of dandruff flakes that we look at. Either it's white and thicker flaky, or yellow and waxy flaky. And then if it's dry scalp, it'll just look like powder. And the way to check is on your shoulder, like maybe put a black shirt or black cloth and shake your head and see what comes. And if you're noticing thicker flakes, like little, like snowflakes, then you know that it is more likely dandruff. And then look at it if it's yellow or if it's white or waxy or not. And if it just looks like little powder, like a little bit of icing sugar on your shoulder, that's not dandruff, that's a dry scalp. So really know the difference on that, because that makes a difference on how it's treated. Another one with me, and we've talked about this dandruff dry scalp before, so we're not going to go too deep in it today. You guys could go back and watch previous videos that we have on it. You could search it on our YouTube channel, but just something to be aware of. And then hair breakage and shedding. I find this is very common. I see this often in the telogen effluvium group that we have, as people post pictures and they're like, I have lots of shedding. I'm like, well, that's actually breakage. Now, the difference between knowing if it's hair breakage versus shedding, if it's breakage, you're going to have different lengths of hair. And it's because it's breaking at different points of the hair. And you'll have more of that. And if you look a bit, zoom closer, the hair has more of a breaking point. So I'll put it on my camera. A lot of phones now go up to 200 magnifying glass. I will put that hair. Sometimes I'll analyze my own kid's hair if it's shedding or breakage, and I'll put it on a white piece of paper and I'll zoom in with my phone and look at the end to see what the ends look like. And you could often see if it's breakage or not. And then if it's shedding, typically you'll have little white bulbs on the ends of the hair, and they'll be consistent in the same length throughout the hair. And you'll notice that so when you're looking at it, really analyze it. Is it breakage that I'm experiencing, or shedding, or a little bit of both? And then analyze from there, am I shedding the normal amount of shedding, or am I experiencing more than a normal amount of shedding? And am I shedding because it's a season change, or am I shedding because something internally is going on? Which we have talked about many, many times. Sergio, you're nodding because you see it as well quite often. Yeah.
Definitely. Another thing that you want to take a look at, guys, is for instance, the ends of the hair. That's going to be the major giveaway because usually a lot of people who have been experiencing, for instance, shedding events, you see that you have new growth, and new growth can sometimes be uneven and may resemble kind of like hair breakage. So, how can you tell the difference between one and the other? You got to look at the ends of the hair because the ends of the hair, either they're going to be exploded like breakage, or you're going to see a thin tip. If you see a thin tip, then usually you know that's new growth and not just hair breakage. So definitely you want to pay close attention to the ends of the hair. And if you're paying attention to that, you're going to be able to tell the difference whether it's breakage or new growth. All right. So make sure it's one or the other. And if you're experiencing both, which can happen, you have to determine where is it breaking. Is it breaking near the scalp? Is it growing? Is the breakage occurring more on the mid shaft, or is it breaking on the ends of the hair? So you want to determine that because that will help you analyze and uncover what's causing your breakage. For instance, if it's on the mid shaft, what are you thinking about, Carrie? When you see breakage on the mid shaft, what are some of the events that we commonly see?
Well, I laugh because I have friends that read tarot cards, and I laugh. I'm like, well, I read hair because I could tell a lot about person's hair just by the breakage points and the way it feels. It's funny. I'll be like, huh. Did you have a crash diet around this time at this period? They'll look at me, how did you know? Because, depending on what's going on in your life, it'll show up in the hair. Your hair, every quarter of an inch behind you is a story. And so say, for example, the breakage is they're noticing it all around here. Then it has a little lump in the hair. Like I could feel it. But like that, I'm like, okay, like 8 months ago, you tried this type of diet. And usually it's the breaking point because a lot of times that'll cause a blip in the system, causing the hair to have breakage. If it's on the ends of the hair, it's because of being, over processing the hair or hot tools or not moisturizing the hair, causing the breakage, or environment. If it's, closer to the scalp breakage, and if it's like just in certain spots, it could be their hat or they wear a headband, or I'm seeing a lot now with the headphones.
Yep.
I see a lot of breakage, and sunglasses. Like my husband, I noticed we had a whole bunch of breakage here, but he wears headphones with sunglasses every day at work. And I'm like, Carl, you're causing breakage in here. You got to, start wearing the earplugs maybe instead. There's also too, like from the root could be from the moisture. There's a whole bunch of different factors. So yeah.
Or for instance, if you have, if you drive and you like to wear your hair and your seatbelt runs over it, you see that on the side of the seatbelt, you see where the hair breakage,
or where they sleep. What side they sleep on most? I'm like, you're a left side sleeper.
If your purse or your backpack, it gets caught off on your hair. It can break your hair. So those are the type of details that you want to pay attention to.
Or elastics. That's when I'll have girls in my chair take their elastic, go, and I'm like, you can tell they always pull it out like that, and they'll have breakage right in like that area.
Exactly.
Wherever they pull it, I'm like, okay, stop doing that. Or when they braid their hair or put it back wet, I could tell because it has a different breaking point too. Yeah, I'm like a detective with hair breakage.
That's the thing, you have to look at where it's happening, close to the scalp, mid shaft, the ends. If it's happening on one side or the other, if it's just happening at certain sections of the scalp. So you have to look at exactly. First, if it happened on the nape,
I call it the Canadian breakage. It's usually from our coats. Like the amount of time my scarf or my my hoodies from wearing my winter coats, we all get the famous mat under here. So it's the winter mat. Literally.
And actually, it is very common. A lot of people might notice now that that the cold weather, it's coming in and out. It's not as frequent as it was a couple of months ago, and you might start noticing that a little bit of hair breakage in that section. So now you might know. Now for those of you who understand cold, over here in the Caribbean, we don't relate to that.
Well, maybe the bikini tops when they tie them, because I know when I put mine on, I always get my hair caught up in it. So I have to carry a clip and put it on first, because otherwise my hair is caught up in it.
That's more of the Caribbean type of hair.
Yeah. I don't know.
Hey guys, I hope you have a lot of fun with us today. We have to go now, guys.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing show, and again, we appreciate your comments, your questions. If you have anything that you want to share with us, please comment on the videos. We are publishing, we're broadcasting live on Instagram, Facebook, and of course our channel on YouTube. But if you see any of our episodes anywhere, please comment and then hit the like button. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us with the algorithm and share our content with a lot of people, because we want to be able to share this information and get people more into the healthy hair and get them hair smart. This is
And you know
the
what,
most important thing.
Sergio? I think the next couple ones we should do one full one just on scalp issues, because I know we could go on that topic and just do
Yeah.
one dedicated scalp issues and one specifically just to hair fiber, because there's a lot of other hair fiber stuff we didn't even get a touch base on, which I think which would be awesome just to do a deep dive in hair fiber, especially when if you are in that journey of ready to start growing your hair, how do you take care of it? So
Hey, you're the expert. We'll follow you on that one. So we'll do that on the next show, guys. We'll see you next week. God bless you all. And remember, stay connected to the Hair Wire whenever you see our posting on our June 2nd show. It's going to be a seminar. It's going to be an amazing event, and it's going to be an online event, and you want to be part of it. So stay tuned, stay connected. We'll see you next week. Till then, God bless you all. Bye-bye.